CardGamesTV Podcast. So, speed of the game, especially competitively, something I noticed that happens a lot, especially I see people complain about it, like in their, on their podcast, or, they make YouTube videos about it, about time and issues with competitive play, which is, understandable. And it is important to speak on, right? So there's a problem, right? Time being an issue, being a factor. What's interesting is, as a competitive player, now I can say I'm a competitive player. I still am competitive casual, but you get my point. I'm in a couple hours from now, in the afternoon, I'll be going to hopefully, this is going to be a Mother's Day Dragon Ball Super event, which I've been helping to promote to try to get people to go, because if people don't go, then the event won't happen, and that will suck, considering the fact that I've been looking forward to it, and I want more opportunities to play in a competitive setting, or at least in a tournament style setting. And ultimately, I just want to be able to play. I spend time and money on cards. I would like to be able to play with them and meet new people, understand third, and all that good stuff that everybody else gets to enjoy. I want to enjoy too. I want to play against other people, meet people, hang out with people. So I understand, some people's issues with how competitive play is set up, and how there's certain issues, especially like stuff with time rules. Slow play being an issue, and that's understandable, slow play being an issue, because you're literally playing within a certain time frame. So the fact that your opponent can probably waste 10 to 15 minutes on their turn, which essentially is one whole entire game, right? That's one game, right? And you're trying to play best 2 out of 3, especially if you're playing best 2 out of 3. And the fact that your opponent could potentially not, it's rare for somebody to literally take 15 minutes for their turn, but can it happen? Yes, it can. And that creates, obviously, issues. So the problem is some people taking longer on their turns than the other person, and that creates an imbalance, right? Because depending on the situation, the state of the game, depending on life points, especially when we determine who wins based off who has more life at the end of the round, that can create an issue when somebody, did their best to maintain a higher life count, and then they're the ones taking forever on their turns, making the time run out, so that way they could win that way, and that becomes an issue when people are trying to turn that into a win con, stalling for time, as they say. So that's an issue, right? More reason why we need to have it where every turn has time limit itself. That way somebody can't abuse that. Somebody can't take 5 minutes per turn, which means in 3 turns they wasted 15 minutes of the game. In 15 minutes you could have had like 7 turns. 7 turns could have passed in 15 minutes, but you literally had somebody only have 3 turns in those 15 minutes, which usually will let their opponent only have like 2 turns. And that's unfortunate when you're restricting how many chances your opponent has to make plays and decisions and even have a turn, just based off of how long you take in your turn. So that's important. So more reason why we need, when people are setting up competitive play, right, it needs to be set up properly, like competitive play, not set up like casual play. Like here, you have 45 minutes per round type shit, have fun, or 60 minutes per round, have fun, and then just trust that everything will work out evenly, fairly, and so, like, nah, right? Nah, there's chances for douchebaggery, cheating, or just something that's just not cheating per se, but it's just it doesn't help the competitive scene. So this is part of what the podcast is about. I wanted to point out this factor that I noticed that a lot of players have habit of playing certain cards that I don't play. And the reason I don't play these types of cards is because it slows the game down. For example, 1-drops that let you look at the top 7 or top 5 cards of your deck to try to add a card and then shuffle the cards back have your opponent cut the deck, then put the deck back, then try to make another decision, decide if you're going to play something else. Let's say you play another card, another one drop that lets you search the top 5. So you're doing that same action again and again. You're adding so many steps. You're spending so much time just trying to get 2 extra cards on top of the fact that you just played 2 cards. So you play 2 cards and you're trying to get 2 more cards. When you could just play stuff that just play it, draw, play, draw. That's why I would rather play cards where I play it in my draw. I'd rather play cards that draw than to play cards that try to search things out. Unless what you're playing searches out your ultimate or something, there's no reason for you to be playing stuff that's... That creates a problem. You know, so stuff like that, like you're literally playing cards to try to go get some other cards. And that takes too many extra actions, right? And not only you have to, you know, look at the top, you know, number, depending on the number, you have to look through and then pick the, then you have to try to decide. That's another thing. It takes time when you're looking at the cards. You have all these cards you could choose from. You're looking through the cards. Let's say you picked up 7 cards. You're looking through them, trying to decide which one you should grab. Then you look at your hand, try to see, okay, which one do I need? So those extra thoughts, extra steps, the fact that you have to think more. You don't have to think to draw. You just grab the card and add it to your hand, that's it, and keep it moving. But when you have to look at the top 7 cards of your deck, or 5 cards, for example, and then try to decide what you're going to grab, then grab it, then shuffle your deck, then hand your deck to your opponent so they can cut, then they give it back, and you put it back in your deck area, and then you go try to do another, you know, another move. And let's say you play something else. Let's say you play a battle card to search, then you play an extra card to search. So now you're wasting a lot of time to do those actions. You can only imagine, like, let's say it takes 30 seconds for each of those actions, for each of, just for you to search, just for playing a 1-drop, you know? So if you do it twice, you wasted a whole minute just to search, just to try to add cards to your hands, when you could just draw. You use a whole bunch of draw effects. That way you make a play, you draw. Swing with the leader, draw. Play a super combo, draw, and just simplify it that way. That should be the mindset of a competitive player, is everything is faster. You shouldn't want things to waste time. You shouldn't be doing things that waste time, things that take time. Then there's, you know, combos like, oh, I have this chain. Granted, if it's your win con, then it's okay if it takes a lot of steps, like cell chain or something, right? Where it's like, oh, I play this, and he responds. Okay, I activate this effect. I attach this, and he responds. Okay, I do this. I do. That makes sense, because when you're done that, you know, that chain, you should be going for game, and the game should be over right there and then. So then it's fine if it takes time for you to perform that win con. But it shouldn't take a lot of time to perform basic actions, like trying to add another card to your hand, then just draw. Just play a whole bunch of cards that draw. A lot of my unisons have draw effects. So I just play them, activate their effect to draw, and that's it, and just leave it that way. Swing with my leader, attack, right? Draw. Play some more cards, attack. End my turn, that's it. That's all I should be doing on my turns, right? Draw, charge, play something, draw, attack, end my turn. That's how competitive play should be. That's how straightforward and simple it should be. Shouldn't be adding all these extra effing steps that a lot of people I notice tend to do, is add all this extra stuff. To deliberately play 1-drops that searches out a unison or a battle card or this or that. Oh, this let me search a super combo. Blah, blah, blah. It's like, that's cute and all, but that's not necessary. You can get all those cards just by drawing cards. So if you make sure your deck draws, you don't have to search for shit, because you're going to draw them anyway. Make sure when you mulligan your first hand, you mulligan to get the cards you need anyway. If you need super combos, make sure you mulligan so you can guarantee 1 or 2 super combos in your opening hand. Why are you wasting time trying to search them out through card effects? You know what I'm saying? So you're wasting time, is what I'm saying. So if you're a competitive player, you shouldn't be playing cards that take long to finish their things, especially when you know when you play competitively, you're playing with time. When you're playing casually, hey, do you. If it takes 10 turns for you to win the game because you're playing Biru's, you know, leader, and you need 16 energy and you're ramping, you're taking long just to try to use the win con, fine. Casually, you can do that. But competitively, don't do that. Don't play a deck that requires shit tons of turns for you to even try to win. It's one thing if for some reason it takes long for the match to finish, and then you end up winning because, you know, you have a win con you could take advantage of, like on turn 10 or something. But if your whole strategy is to try to get to turn 10 to try to win, don't play that deck competitively. Play that casually. Play something faster. You should be trying to win faster anyway. Your goal should be to win. Why wouldn't you want to win faster? Winning slower makes no sense. You're giving your opponent more opportunities for them to win anyway if you take a strategy that takes long to win with, to play with. So stop playing stuff that takes too long to resolve. I try not to play counter plays because, you know, I don't want to go into too many steps. I don't want to, like, my opponent plays a counter play and then I'm like, okay, well, since you play your counter play, I'm gonna counter and then just, you know, trying to create a chain, and they'll be like, well, I counter your counter, I counter you, like, oh damn it, all these, you know, then you create a Yu-Gi-Oh type of scenario where it's like, I respond, you respond, I respond, you respond, and then we're trying to figure out how to resolve it, right? When I'd rather just like, okay, I play something, and if my opponent plays a counter play, it's like, all right, you got it, that resolves, let's move on to the next step. I'm not trying to add any extra steps unnecessary to my turns. I'm trying to simplify things, right? When it comes to defense, I'm just either going to take the hit, out combo the hit, block the hit, or negate the hit, and that's it. I'm not going to try to add anything extra, anything fancy to that. I'm not going to even, you know, try to waste time with like a battle trick or something, right? You know, granted, if you like to do that stuff like arrival battle tricks or play an extra card battle trick, hey, you know, to each their own. It's just that you are adding extra steps when it should just be as simple as your opponent's trying to swing for game, negate it, block it, or take it, or out combo it. Simplify it. I like to make things simple because it's better that way. It's better to make things simple so you don't have to put too much effort into doing things, right? You want to simplify and make everything just function a specific way instead of me trying to add all these extra things. Just because the creators of the game add these extra abilities, like, you know, active battle abilities and stuff like that, arrival abilities, doesn't mean you have to use them. You could choose not to use them just to keep the game nice and simple and straightforward for you. If you want to add the complexity, right, add these extra little interactions, that's on you. Just understand you're just adding more steps, which means more time, right? These steps require time. These steps are not free, right? These steps require time, and you're just wasting time. If that's your goal, hey, to each their own. You do you. I'm not responsible for your actions, but I'm just saying, if you're one of the people that's complaining that, you know, matches are not long enough, first and foremost, look at yourself and see, are you playing the game in a slow way? Are you playing a slow deck? Well, that is already going to create a problem when it comes to time, because the deck is slow, so it's going to take a time. If your deck is a turn 6 deck, right, where it's like turn 6 or turn 7, you know, like for me, I play my Zamasu deck, and turning the tides, right, turn 7. That's if I don't ramp, which I did incorporate a little bit of ramp into the deck to try to play it turn 6 instead, or at least maybe turn 5 if I'm lucky. So I'm trying to speed my deck up because I know my deck is a little bit slower, right? Its win con takes a lot longer. So even though I'm saying don't play a slow deck, and I'm technically playing a slow deck, the thing is I'm at least trying to speed it up, which is, the advice I'm trying to give is like, if your deck is slow, try to speed it up. If you can't speed it up, then don't play it. Since I can speed up my Zamasu deck, that's why I'm still playing it, and I added the ability to speed it up, right? And I have a lot of draw effects in there. I have a lot of defense, obviously, right? But I have a lot of draw effects. I'm incorporating the ability to put cards back into the deck, or at least I should say I put more cards that do that. I already have some cards that can do it, but now I added a little bit more. And sorry, I also added the ability to play from my graveyard as well with my Frieza Universe 7 United. So I brought that back. So that has barriers, 20k, right? And it's a blocker, so I can use it offensively and defensively. And with enough energy, if I have 6 energy, I could bring 2 of them back, and that with a unison plus a lead, that's 4 swings right there. That should be, that's potential game right there under the right conditions. Especially, it's really awesome if I enter 17 turn in the ties, right? And let's say I don't win that turn, my opponent was able to survive. Then on the next turn, let's say somehow they managed to like break my board or something. On the following turn, if I have, if I have them if I have 2 freezes in the drop for 6 energy, I can bring them back, and right there, that's 2 attacks that I can use along with my leader. And if I still have my unison, then that's 4 attacks. So that's something that that I'm thinking about. So it's like, yeah, might as well bring that back. Because in my older Zamasu builds, not the one that I recently used, did have Frieza, but I was trying something different, so that's why I didn't have those. I didn't have them, but of course they would have came in handy. So put them back and ramp. So I took away ramp. I took away Frieza from the original, from the other build, and then now it's like, okay, time to put them back because they're useful. So now I'm going back. The funny thing is, the other build was a ramp build, but it didn't ramp to the things that help me ramp, right? Because it was based off of ramping, but since it ramps with my deck, and my deck becomes my life with the leader, it is a bit of a contradiction. It works if you defend hard enough, but if you're in a situation where you're not defending hard enough, then yeah, it gets hard to ramp, because by ramping you're essentially losing life technically. So hey, it was a fun strategy nonetheless, and it was working out pretty well. But I am now streaming it, right, simplifying it, trying to reduce certain needs for certain steps, certain cards, and just try and streamline it a little bit more and just focus on one strategy instead of having like a couple of different strategies in the deck, and just trying to go back to a more basic build, more basic strategy. What else? But like I say, speed the game up. Too many people are trying to, just use a whole bunch of cool effects because they can. It's like, oh, this lets me search, and then this lets me evolve on top, and this lets me do this, and this lets me do that. And then when I evolve, I draw the cards, and it's like, that's cool and all, but you had to search and shuffle and cut, and then auto, then draw, then do this and do that. And if you play something that makes you, look in your deck again, it's like every time you look in your deck, you're just adding more. You're wasting more time, is what I'm saying. Wasting more time when you're constantly going back and forth with your deck. You want to reduce how many times you search. If you really need to search something, that's fine, that's understandable, especially if it's a very important piece. Maybe it's your win con, that is fine. Search out your win con. Search out your win con. But if it's just to search out basic ass shit like super combos or just another random battle card, and it's like, oh my god, you didn't need to do that. You could have just played cards to draw, and you could have drew just any card. Could have even have drawn your super combos. You didn't need to try to search them out specifically. So just point out that you could speed things up, since you have more control of yourself than you have control of anyone else who's playing the game. You should try to play faster, right? Practice to make sure that you mulligan faster, right? You already know what to mulligan before you mulligan, instead of looking at your hand like, what should I mulligan? You should already know how to mulligan. I typically just mulligan my negates away, because I don't need them like on the first 2 turns of a game. With my Zamasu deck, pretty much I don't need defense for the first 4 or 5 turns of the game. So I easily just mulligan my negates away, and try to get some stuff that I could play, preferably my unisons, obviously, battle cards, that I could put on board and start swinging, because the goal is to just take my opponent down to to 0 life, right? So start applying pressure early game, and then mid to late game, that's when you start being more defensive, keep some energy up, play your negate, all that good stuff, and just hold out. Try to get that extra turn so you can swing for game, but make sure that what you're doing is trying to make the game last longer so you can swing for game, so you can keep swinging at your opponent, keep trying to end the game. It shouldn't be taking all this extra time just to try to search shit, just to try to just to try to play something that might not even do anything. It's like, oh, I do this chain and I'm evolving, you know, from my deck, you know, doing Union Absorb, and I'm evolving some things. Like, all right, that's cool and all, but are you going to do anything? Are you going to go for game with that? No. Well, that was a waste of time, and that's the point, is you're wasting time with all these extra unnecessary actions. Make sure that when you're doing something, it has a purpose. And the purpose, for me, is always to deal damage. So you better be, whatever you do, better be for the purpose of dealing damage, for the purpose of winning the game. It shouldn't be just to put something on the board, just because it looks cool to play some like big 7-drop on turn 4, but the 7-drop doesn't even do much. It's like, damn, it doesn't even do much. Wait, you went through all that trouble just to play a dropper, a blocker? That's it? Okay. There's way cheaper blockers you could play if you really need a blocker, right? That's nothing. If I was to play 1-drops, I would play 1-drops to draw or 1-drop blockers, because them blocking attacks, right, them letting me survive a turn, right, would increase my chances of getting another turn, which means I would draw when I get that other turn. So I'm already going to get cards next turn. Then I swing with my leader, draw, right? So I'm already going to be drawing, right? A blocker that lets you draw, and it's a blocker. That's double love right there. That makes everything simpler, because it's a blocker and it draws. So you definitely want blockers to draw. Blockers with barrier are always good, obviously. Those are pretty much guaranteed defense, unless your opponent plays something that ignores barrier. But other than that, that's the route you should be going. As a competitive player, you should be thinking about simple things like that, like using blockers as a form of draw, because since you're stalling, right, you're preventing yourself from losing. You're guaranteed you get an extra turn, so you're going to draw for your turn. You're going to draw for your leader swings, right? You're going to draw for, maybe you have a battle card that draws when it attacks, stuff like that. So you're already going to, I already play a 1-drop that draws, or a 2-drop or 3-drop that draws when it attacks, or just when you play it. Then for you to play freaking search cards. That's what I'm trying to say. Just play stuff that draws, play a whole bunch of them, and just keep the game moving forward and faster. Stop slowing the game down by literally playing unnecessary search cards. Because a lot of times y'all end up searching stuff that searches. Like, you play a 1-drop, it's like, oh, got no targets here except this 1-drop, which lets me search again. Okay, play it and try to search again. Like, it's all these unnecessary action. A lot of times you end up, because especially it's funny when you play something that searches and all this searching is something that draws. It's like, you could have just played something that draws in the first place. Why are you searching out something that draws? And then you're going to play that thing to try to draw. And it's like, you could have just played stuff that draws only, and it would make your life simpler. Because you're more likely going to draw the stuff that draws anyway. So once you play, you draw more and just simplify that action. The fact that you have to search, shuffle, cut, right, put the deck back, and then play something that draws, and then draw, is like too many unnecessary actions. That's the thing. Y'all making the game harder than it needs to be. And that's another factor. Making the game harder, right? Making the game seem more complicated than it really is. I'm not against making the game hard for your opponent. You should always make it harder for your opponent. Obviously, make the game hard for your opponent, but easier for yourself. So if you're one of the people that's complaining that the matches are not long enough, first and foremost, look at yourself. Look at what you're doing. Look at your deck. Are you playing the fastest deck you could possibly play? If the answer is no, then you're part of the problem. You can't be complaining that there's not enough time to play when you're playing a slow strategy in the first place. You're not exactly, Speedy Gonzalez. You're not exactly the fastest player alive. So maybe you might want to look at yourself first, right? Make sure that you're not part of the problem, first and foremost. Just like I try not to be part of a problem when I play a game. I try to be as fast as possible, right? Especially in real life, it's a little bit easier. Untap is really hard for me because I tend to have access to shitty internet, and the game tends to lag a lot of times. A couple of times, most of my opponents complain that I'm taking too long, and it's like, okay, I mean, the game just looks slow in general, on tap. Things are taking too long. Like, I'm trying to make an action, and it's taking long for the action to resolve. So it's not me. It's literally the connection, the game, the website. which is more why I prefer to, yes, play in real life. It's more fun that way anyway. I love the feel of the cards and this and that, and the interaction, plus even the talking, and even knowing who my opponent is and being able to talk to them afterwards or before, you know, we play. You know, it's just so much better. And I understand. I still want the ability to be able to play online, you know, because of convenience and stuff, especially if I could play people halfway, you know, across this, you know, country or world. You know, online play is a must-have thing. It is definitely the future of well, activities in general, but definitely card games. But I've been, you know, trying to make that a thing for years. That's why it's nice that there's, you know, Discord have, you know, exists, and people, and Untap and stuff like that. It's great that stuff like this already exists, and some people are already putting forth the effort to make that a, you know, common thing, you know, online tournaments and stuff like that, which is great. Which I definitely want to try to get on that. Especially I'm currently in my old spot in my bat cave. Soon I'll be in my new spot. Still moving. That reminds me I'm supposed to still be packing some stuff right now while I'm talking. You know, multitasking, trying to move stuff from one bag to another. And you know, so when I'm in a new spot, I will start being able to you know, do more Twitch streams. Some people have, you know, pointed out that they do want to see me play more. It's like, okay, I want to see me play more instead of talking about the game. Fair enough. I'll try to do that. I mean, I would like to play more than to talk. You know, I do like theory crafting. I do like sharing knowledge and information. But as much as I like doing that, I like to play more as well. I get it. Some people are visual learners. I understand. So I'll try to give y'all stuff y'all can watch and learn from. And that's one of the things I definitely want to be doing, is teaching through my gameplays. You know, what the hell? Why is that empty? Because even, you know, I'm a visual learner too. You know, I mean, I can learn from listening to people play and talk about playing, but I'm a visual learner too, so I understand that people rather, you know, they want to see gameplay. So I'll do my best to accommodate gameplay as much as I can. Let's see. What else to speed? What else to speed things up? Attack order, right? Obviously, knowing how you're going to attack. You know, how you're going to, you know, what you're going to do turn 1, turn 2, and the list goes on and on, right? You need to know that ahead of time. There shouldn't be, you know, it's your turn, you draw, and then you take long to charge. It shouldn't take that long to charge. You should already made that decision while it was your opponent's turn. While it was your opponent's turn, you should already know what you're going to charge. I tend to do that a lot when I play, is while it's my opponent's turn, I'm already thinking what I'm going to charge and what I'm going to play if I decide that I'm going to make, in case I have 2 plays I could make. I'm like, I could play my Raditz, Giant Force, or I could play my 2-drop Mudgeon Defier, E Supreme Cow, or my Striving to Be Best Goku or something. Keep 1 energy up for, like, you know, my for a negate or something. So, or just a 10k combo that requires an energy, something like that, right? So, you know, it depends, right? And it's largely dependent on what my opponent does. If my opponent is, you know, is being aggressive, right, being on the offense, then it's like, okay, I'm gonna have to try to be a little defensive because they're being on the offense. But if they're being more defensive than offensive, then I can be like, okay, then I'll play this strategy instead. Since my opponent is putting up their defense, okay, I'm gonna put up defense as well, right? Or if they're putting up their defense, I'm like, well, they're putting up the defense, that must mean they don't have much threat, or they feel that, or they're just preparing for my threat. So I'm like, all right, cool. You're prepared for me to be on the offensive? Well, here you go. I'm on the offensive now. You know what I mean? But it depends. Depends what I feel. Right? Feelings. Right? What I feel. If I feel that I should go on the offense, then I go on the offense. If not, not. Right? It depends. Because my opponent might be putting up a defense as a bluff. Right? right? Or they're just putting it up there as a just in case, right? They're putting the defense up, and their idea and their goal is to try to go on the offense the following turn. So they're just making sure that they have a defense, that they have the defense ready for when they go for their kill turn, I guess. So if they don't succeed in winning on their kill turn, their defense is already there. So they don't have to try to put their defense and swing for game in the same turn, right? Because they won't have enough energy to do both. So the turn prior to the turn in which they're going for game, they put up their defenses or put up the wall, whatever you want to call it. Then the next turn is when they're trying to go for game. I tend to do that. I tend to try to put up a defense first, you know, and then obviously survive that turn with the defense, use the defense to survive that turn. Then next turn, try to go for game. And if I don't succeed, at least I already have my defense ready there to roll. So that's a simple thing that I do. Most other people do the same. So no surprise. So that's the kind of stuff that I'm saying. It depends on what they're doing. So if they put up their defense, either they don't have much and they see you as a threat. They see that you're in a winning position, so they're preparing themselves for the clapback, or they're preparing to go for game. So it's one of those two possibilities. So then you have to make the decisions based off of that. So you have to figure out, are they putting up defense because they have no offense, or are they putting up a defense because they do have an offense and they're getting ready to attack. They're ready to go for game. Right? That's important. You got to figure that out. That's where experience comes in, right? So if you play test, a lot of times you learn that. And that's why I always say play testing is not about your deck. It's not about fine-tuning your deck to make sure it's good and stuff like that. You could do that with just doing test hands for consistency purposes. But you play test not for matchups and whatnot. It's for you to gain the experience to be able to tell when your opponent's going to do something. I've made masterclass videos, right, where I talk about, you know, different aspects of the game that I've mastered, and you know, that's why I call it masterclass. And one of the many videos I have is the ability to read your opponent's cards based off of their energy area. If you look at their energy area, you'll see cards in there, obviously, right? There's a high probability, because it tends to happen. A lot of us, this is something a lot of us do. Even I do this myself. A lot of times we charge stuff we have extra copies of, you know? So if I have like 2 Godsend Trunks in my hand, I don't play it, but let's say I did, I will charge one, right? Unless I don't want you to know that I have it, then I try not to charge it because I don't want you to know that I have it. But typically, if I have other cards that are more important to keep and I don't want to charge them, then I would charge the extra Godsend Trunks, as an example. I've been in scenarios where I charge super combos when I do use them sometimes, obviously. Sorry. It's because I have other cards that I find more valuable, more important. I need to keep the other cards more importantly, so I would charge a super combo. I think once I charged like an ultimate. Once. Don't remember which ultimate it was. But once I charged an ultimate. Right? And it happens. I mean, I've seen a couple other people charge ultimates. It's not like there's a, you know, rule in the game that says you can't do that. You can't charge a super combo or an ultimate or a Godsend Trunks or whatever, right? You can charge whatever you want. But I just know that there's certain players and within the player base that is essentially an unwritten rule per se. You know, don't charge super combos, don't charge your ultimates, you know, that kind of stuff. There are some unwritten rules, and hey, to each their own. I clearly don't subscribe to those rules. Just like it's unwritten rule that every deck has to have a super combo, apparently. Right? But to me, it's like, oh, but that's not a actual, you know, Bandai rule, so I can't play decks without them. Just like I could play decks without ultimates. Some people, you know, the unwritten rule, gotta have 1 ultimate per deck. No, you can have 1 ultimate per deck, not you have to. So that's, but again, unwritten rules in the community, to each their own. And I'm aware of the you know, these unwritten rules, right? But I don't have to follow them, right? They're not actual rules. actual official rules. They're just more player preferences and whatnot. Teach them, play what you want to play. Ironically, to a certain degree, some leaders are considered, are classified as, the whole unwritten rule, like Soul Striker, for example. When it comes to blue leader, Soul Striker is the #1 blue leader. It's the best blue leader. That's the unwritten rule, right? Whereas, like, nah, he's good. He alright. There's way better leaders out there per my play style. For me, Soul Striker is great for new players because it makes the game easier for them. Granted, experienced players can play it too, and it makes the game easier for them. And there's nothing wrong with making the game easier for yourself and harder for your opponent. I'm all for that, obviously. That's a strategy. It's just that it's not something I have to do all the time. It's like, yeah, I don't need Soul Striker. I'll be okay without Soul Striker. I can use any other blue leader. Because, yeah, I'm at that level. If you want to call it level. I'm at that level where I don't need Soul Striker. I can use any other leader. Because the way I play, I don't need that effect per se. But ironically, that reminds me, I just got them in. I have 2 of my unisons. Let me grab them real quick. Majin Buu, Assault of the Agents of Destruction. Double strike blocker. So what's ironic about him, the way I see him, the way he plays out, is that he's with a blue leader. He kind of makes it where any blue leader you play is what's his name? Soul Striker. Speaking of Soul Striker, right? This blue unison is pretty badass because of the fact that it essentially makes it. If you're playing a blue leader, you essentially have Soul Striker. Technically, Soul Striker on the front side as opposed to the back side, right? Because it has the active main where you draw a card, and then at the start of your opponent's next main phase, you switch this card to active mode if your leader card is blue, and switch one of your mono blue energy to active mode, right? Now, I don't know and if your leader card is blue, switch your energy. So, okay, so even if you're not using a blue leader, you can still draw and switch him to active mode. The untapping blue energy is only if you have a blue leader. So with a blue leader, he becomes this, essentially becomes a pseudo Soul Striker. So I like that. I like that concept, right? That's what I'm trying to say. I like the concept. So obviously, if you use this with Soul Striker, you're untapping 3 energies every turn. Got it. That is pretty badass, right? So I definitely recommend this in Soul Striker for those who play Soul Strikers. I do own Soul Striker. I just don't play him. I use SS3 Goku with my other blue deck and Zamasu, which is my other blue deck. So those are my 2 main real life blue decks. But I do have other blue leaders. If I wanted to, I could always play Soul Striker. Yeah, duh, right? But SS4 Vegeta because of ramp, and Goku Black is another blue leader I like to do because of ramp. So I do have blue leaders that ramp, or at least help me manipulate energy. So I have those, and then I just have a lot of other blue leaders that do other cool things, right? Depending on what I want to use them for. Zamasu, I kind of consider him ramp in a way because of his ability to stall. Like when he the fact that I could awaken and turn my deck into life, so I can stall. And I can get to turn 6 and 7 and 8, right? Just by, surviving long enough to be able to do that. Somewhat, it's ramp in a way. Because to me, in general, the term ramp is more of just guaranteeing that you can get to a certain point where you can play something that costs a lot. That's what I consider to be ramp. Not necessarily playing more energy. Obviously, that's a typical form of ramp, but just to me, in general, just the concept is like, I'm just trying to get to a certain point where I can play a certain card. So being able to play a 6-drop, a 7-drop, a 8-drop, a 10-drop, anything that can help me get to that point of doing that, I consider it ramp. That's why I even consider Senzu Bean a ramp card. I use it more to essentially ramp, because the ability of untapping energy, so that way I always technically have more energy than I already was using, so I can make more plays. That to me is ramp. So being able to reuse energy is essentially ramp. So Soul Striker in a way is ramp. Just the way I think. But yeah, the fact that this kind of acts a little bit like ramp per se, if we're going with that Soul Striker analogy, the whole untapping energy is really nice. The fact there's a blocker gives me the chance of, staying in the game longer. And of course, it's minus one ability to bottom deck one of my opponent's battle cards. Further helping me survive a turn, right? So I could potentially stop 2 attacks a turn with him, and have an energy up, so I could always negate, or at least 10k combo with 1 energy, or maybe do some arrival play if I'm going that route. Options are options, right? And then the fact that he's a 20k double strike puts in a lot of work. He's great against dealing with other unisons. Ironically, he's a out to himself because of his double strike capabilities. Sorry. Double strike capabilities, and he's a 20k binder. So the fact that I could swing him into my opponent's Majin Buu and try to knock off markers, since the Majin Buu doesn't have the ability to gain markers, this Majin Buu helps me counter my opponent playing Majin Buu, which is a plus. So I was like, damn, how can I deal with the Majin Buu? Majin Buu is so good. It's like, using Majin Buu to beat Majin Buu. That's how. The faster I knock off the markers, the better. And only need 2 swings to knock off all 4 markers, right? What else I'm saying? But it's a good card, obviously. That's why most people have been using it. And now I got 2 of them. I'm waiting for the other 2 from another seller to come in. And today, obviously, we'll be playing Dragon Ball Super in the afternoon, hopefully. And good thing I got these 2. So, because I'm upgrading the Zamasu deck to incorporate these 2. And I've been testing out on Untap the deck with the Unison, and the Unison really, really good. Definitely works with the leader very well. It does a lot. It does a lot of stuff that I want to do with the leader. So, it's great to finally be able to get it. The Unison got cheaper, so that was nice. It made it easier to, get it and not, I'm a budget player. Even though I could afford to pay, hundreds and hundreds of dollars on cards, I'd rather not. I'm patient. I can wait. I'm not in a hurry. I can wait. I can substitute. I can use other cards that are cheaper until the cards I want to use get cheaper. Then when they get cheaper, I grab them. Just like I got a Zeno for $10 because I waited long enough, right? Instead of buying it and trying to buy the original for how much it cost originally, I just wait until it got reprinted and then buy the reprint. Still waiting to get a baby Hatchiyak. Right now he's like 100 and something, so like I could next week if I feel like it, just scoop him up. I already have other things I'm gonna buy this week, so that's why I'm not thinking about buying him this week. But I could, if I want, buy him next week. Should check to see if he dropped under $100, and scoop him up. I've scooped up a lot of other ultimates, so I've been collecting ultimates, been buying up some ultimates here and there because they've been dropping under $100. So I've just been scooping them up. So that way, if I need them for a deck, then I have them, right? And I've gotten some really, really good ultimates. Like, they're generically good where I could just use them with like multiple different decks. So it's always good to grab the generic unisons that you can use with any decks. That way, if I want to put an ultimate in a deck, I can. And I have a nice generic one I could put in all of them, right? Besides my Heron's Lineage, that was one of the obviously generic ultimates that I bought a while back. Sorry, but now I'm getting some specific color based ultimates that work within certain colors, or they're generic enough that you can use them with any leader. I got me I think it's Gogeta. It's a 10-drop Gogeta ultimate that if you have 5 monocolor and they're all the same color energy, then you can play it for 5 or something like that with its active main, and it does a whole bunch of awesome shit. So that's a really good ultimate. I could just splash in any deck. So got to keep. So that's awesome. Also, I even have Frieza's Army Reborn. I have that in my Boma deck. But I would like to have the Goku and Frieza Ultimate. Still waiting for that to drop in price so I can scoop that up. Would like to have that one because that's a nice burn based finisher. But the Frieza, ain't bad. It ain't a bad card. It's just that I'd rather have something that burns. I do still want that red drop. Go Hanks Unison Ultimate. I would like to get that. Still waiting for that to drop under 200. Just because I can afford to spend 200 plus on a card doesn't mean I should, right? If I can get it for less, then I'll get it for less. If I can't get it for less, then yeah, I'll fork over the money. But if I can get it for less just by being patient and waiting, then I'll patiently wait. Right now, I'm mainly playing blue. I got my Hatchiyak deck and Boma deck, so those are the main decks I'm playing or have to play. I mean, I do have a couple other decks that I could play, but I'm not in a hurry. I don't need those cards for competitive play at the moment, so I can wait. But I definitely need to get these blue Unisons because they're really, really good, especially for competitive play. So this, like I said, helps make the game easier for me, right? It does a lot of things I want to do. It helps out with certain things. Again, it's just about speeding things up, making things faster. Too many people are trying to do the most. And a lot of times some people don't even, I'm going to say, some players just don't know how to really play the game, right? They'll just play it at the most basic level, as in, oh, look, this new archetype came out, and these are all the cards that comes in that archetype. So I'm going to get them all, sleeve them up, and bang, now I have that archetype. I have that deck. And then that's all they'll play. So if the archetype comes with a 1-drop that look at the top 10 cards of your deck and add such and such, then they'll play it, and they'll play it competitively. Right? So they'll get that archetype, sleeve it up, play test, and then go to a tournament. And the funny thing is, a lot of times when they play test, it's on Untap. And since Untap doesn't have a timer, which I wish it did, they should incorporate that, by the way. Since they don't have a timer, you'll have people literally playing for like an hour or an hour and a half. Like, matches will take so long, especially if the internet's slow, plus the decks are slow, right? That you'll be there for like almost an hour, and that's just game one. Imagine spending 45 minutes on game one, just game one. That's a problem, right? That's a problem. Just game one. Shouldn't take that long. It shouldn't take longer than 15 minutes, per game. So you should be able to do best 2 out of 3 within 45 minutes, or at least an hour, right? Even if it takes 20 minutes per game, within an hour, you should be able to play 3 games with your opponent. Best 2 out of 3, right? So, one thing I noticed when I was playing at the event that, my first game did take long. Like, we ended up going into time. But I was in a winning position, so I ended up winning. But part of it that I noticed was we were talking a lot while we were playing. So we were having a lot of fun. So we kind of was playing that match more casually because we were talking and playing and stuff. So we weren't like hyper focused and hyper competitive, right, in the match. And I noticed that it's like, oh shit, we're running out of time, and we need to talk less, play more, right? So I pointed that out, and I do have the gameplay recorded. I have to just edit it and put in cards and stuff like that and upload it soon. So I just finished uploading game 2 of the third round match I had, because I didn't record the second round match. I wish I did, just because it'd be nice to have all 3 rounds, because it was only a 3-round event, so it would be nice to have all my matches for all 3 rounds. But I only got round 1 and round 3, so round 2 I didn't get to record. Ironically, that match didn't last too long. It was a pretty quick match. It was definitely a one-sided battle, but it still would have been nice to have it recorded. But round 1 and round 3 a lot of back and forth, you know. So it definitely is more entertaining, those 2 rounds. So you'll get to see that soon enough once I edit and upload round 1. Round 3 was extra nice of a battle because the person recognized me. They recognized me, took a picture with me and stuff like that. So that was pretty nice. You know, after he asked to take a picture, and we took a picture after my round 1 game. I was thinking like, man, it'd be crazy we end up playing against each other in the game, you know, in the event. And lo and behold, we ended up playing against each other. So that was nice. And we ended up playing round 3. So let's see. So I won round 1. I lost round 2 and 3. Round 3 was very close. I was very close. It was a very close game. You know, I was very close. You know, it could have been one of 2 things. It could have been a tie, or, you know, we would have went into round 3 and game 3, and it could have gone either way. You know what I mean? So it was a really fun match. Anything could have happened. So let's see. Because I misplayed game 1 badly, so that cost me the game. Game 1 in round 3. I played into a Godzilla Trunks, so I played myself. So that was my misplay. And you know, of course, knowledge is power. So I'm gonna remember to not do that again. To be careful, pay attention to my opponent board. Make sure that if they don't have a blue unison, let's see. But I definitely played better in game 2. And it was very, very, very close. So close. I did play Android 17 turns ties twice on my opponent, so that was a thing. So I pulled off my win con twice. And twice I was not able to finish off my opponent. But even my opponent admitted that if they didn't draw their Gohan, they would have. I would have had game. But they drew the Gohan, and you know, I wasn't able to survive that turn when he dropped Gohan, so you know, I didn't get the extra turn to go for game. Let's see, because I decked out, obviously. But of course, I'm trying to incorporate more effects that recycle my deck, you know, recycle the cards from my deck so I can have more life to, you know, reduce and prevent that. Because if I had enough cards, if I had the ability to put stuff back in my deck, other than 17 turn of ties, right? I would have won that game because I would have had the extra turn necessary to go for game. So, and I learned a lot from that. 1, ramp. 2, play cards that put cards back in my deck, and then that's it. And then I'll be good for the next time I'm in that situation where I can make sure I don't deck out. And that's all it was. It's just making sure I don't deck out and ramp to my win con, you know, sooner than later, so that way I can, you know, take full advantage of it. What else? Hopefully that helps people, you know, get better, right, at the game. It's like, if you're going to play competitively, play faster, as in not just making, you know, moves and decisions faster. That's one way, of course, but also avoid playing cards that slow the game down, that causes too many interactions, that causes you to call for judge. Oh my God, that is the worst. When like something happens, oh, this person played this person played that, and then now you got to call a judge to see how it resolves. It's like, for all that, you should have never played that. Y'all should have never done that. If y'all got to call a judge for something, there's a problem, right? There's a problem. I'd rather you make the game simple enough. Make the game hard for your opponent. Make it difficult for them to beat you, but don't make the game in general itself harder to complete. You want the whole game to play nice and smooth from beginning to the end. You want it from beginning to the end for the game to play out nice and smooth in a specific order, and the game ends when you want it to end, right? Which should be you winning, right? Obviously. That's why it's important to have a win con. You shouldn't be trying to win by luck. You should be winning because you chose to win and you play on a strategy that guarantees you win as long as you pull off the strategy. I know a lot of people don't have win cons. They'll have a really good, like boss monster, right? They'll have a really good strong card that they want to play, and it's like, okay, this is my win con if if my attacks go through. But it's like, yeah, but that's the thing. That's if. That's not guaranteed. That's if. If your win con, right, your battle card that you play that you want to win with had the ability to kind of pretty much guarantee you to win, then it's truly a win con. But if it's just something that, you have to attack to try to win, it could deal a lot of damage. Yes, it's 30k triple strike, and it could attack twice. That's potential, says that. Potential, not guaranteed, potential. Your opponent could always negate, block, out combo, right? Or they could take one attack, right? Take 3 damage for one hit, and then stop the second one. Boom, they survived. So it's not much of a win con if they can interact with it. You want a win con that's hard for your opponent to interact with. Remember, the idea is to make the game harder for your opponent, not easier. Your opponent should not be able to God Seal Trunks your win con. Your win con better have deflect, or it better be a unison, or it better be the leader itself. That's what you need to think. That's what I think when I play. I'm always looking for a battle card with deflect, right? A unison or a leader that I can use as win cons, and try to have all 3 in the deck. Try to have my leader as a win con. Try to have my unison as a win con, or a unison as a win con, and try to have my battle cards or multiple battle cards as my win con. And make sure that deflect, so God Seeing Trunks is not a factor, right? Having barrier also comes in handy, so I don't have to worry about Charismatic than Frieza, right? The idea is to try to avoid these things being a problem, so that way when you play your win con, it should hit the field and it should put in the work that you need, which is to win you the game. That's why you call it a win con and not just a freaking card, right? Not just a freaking battle card that just so happens to be in your deck. It's your win con. It's the reason you win. It's the reason you should be winning is because of that card. So make sure you pick the right win con. You make sure you succeed in using it and get your W's that you chose to get because you chose that card as your win con. And that'll be the end of the podcast.